I've got my I-beam cut to length to 16 feet, and I got those sockets blown off of it and that cleaned up. I still need to go over it with a wire brush to clean the scale off of it, the loose rust and stuff, but it started drizzling last night and that doesn't work very well working with the wire brush on that rusty metal when it's wet and raining on it. Well, I put it aside. I can do that later when I get the pilings put in before I put it up. Now I've got the channel iron out, and these are going to go across from the I-beam and tie into the sill plate on the house, and then I'll put 4x8s or something like that on those to put the deck on, the porch deck on. So I've got to clean those up. I've had those around for a while. I had cut a couple of these and started getting these ready to use for an extension on my sawmill, and then got waylaid on that doing something else. The middle one on there is bent on the end of it, where I think it was in the snowbank. It got hit with a snowplow or something when we were plowing snow, and it got bent, but it's plenty long enough. I've cut those off to 8 feet and square those up, and then I'll take the wire brush to those and clean them up, and we'll probably paint those too. These pieces of angle here, I'm going to make like a joist hanger out of those. These came from the swimming pool, and they were used somewhere in the structure of it, and we just got leftover pieces of that. They're 6 inches wide and 10 inches on the long side. So if I weld these channel irons in there, and then I'll have 4 inches above that, I'll drill holes in there and bolt those into the sill plate for joist hangers. Well, first thing I'm going to do, everything's all muddy. Dug it out of the bank up there. It's all dirty and muddy, so the first thing I'm going to do is take my brush and some water and wash the mud and crap off of those, and then I'll start laying things out. I'll cut those angles. I don't know what I'm going to do first. We'll figure that out when we get this. This stuff's a lot easier to work with if it's dry. It was wet when I brought it down here, and then washing it off didn't get it any drier. I put the rosebud on my epoxy acetylene set up, and it's just running over everything to heat it up enough to dry it out. And then by the time I get ready to work on it, it'll be cooled off enough to handle it again. Got things like soapstone and all that kind of stuff all works a lot better, and that wire brush and everything all works a lot better if this is dry. Okay, not too bad. The first one was a little choppy, but the other two got pretty good. You can see a lot better than what I used to do. So I'll lay those out now, mark those off 8 feet, and cut them off. I've marked those off 8 feet minus 1/8 of an inch, which will, these brackets are a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch, but that'll make it close to make up for the thickness of the brackets. This is not going to be precise, but it's going to be close enough. I need to clean that tip, so I'll get that done first. I gotta remember which side of the line to cut on now. one's got about 4 or 5 feet to fall off. So I'm going to start here and cut this outside edge off first. Okay, that worked, more or less. I'll get the grinder out and trim those up, get them straightened out, and those will be done. Those are all cut to 8 foot long, and then I'll have to cut my hangers, and I think I'll get the plasma torch out for that. Unfortunately, the plasma cutter doesn't seem to want to cut that. Maybe it's the paint on it or something, I don't know, but it just doesn't want to go through. But my oxyacetylene torch still works just fine. Since my cuts are a lot better than they were, they're not that much worse than what the plasma cutter is, so I'll just go ahead and use it. Use the same guide bar that I used for using the plasma torch. Go ahead and cut it off with the oxyacetylene. Okay, it's easier than doing it with a hacksaw. The 3 hangers are cut out, ground down the edges of them and stuff and smoothed them up where the cut was, the oxyacetylene cut was. Getting too dark now to do anything else for tonight, so I'll put everything away. But, now I can get sanding discs or something and clean up the inside of those where the weld's going to go, and then I'm going to lay out some hole pattern on them, drill some holes in them for the hangers, and then we'll weld them onto these channel iron stringers here. And that much will be done. Then I have to get the 4-inch Schedule 80 tubing out and figure out what to do with it. I guess I'll have to start digging the holes for the footings for that, for the foundation for those posts, and then figure out how long to cut those pilings, those posts, and we'll go from there. The weather's supposed to be better for the next couple of days, so we got a little window here before it freezes and snows. I've got to get the rust and the paint off of these things to where I'm going to weld. The rust off of these channels is not going to be too bad. It's pretty thick, but I can clean it up where the welds are going to be and stuff. And then I want to clean the whole thing up and get all the loose rust off of there, and so I can paint it with some corrosion resistant primer, some rust preventative primer. But these angle brackets, I've got to get those cleaned up too, where I'm going to get the weld so I can get a decent weld. I've got to get this paint off of here, and there's like 3 layers of paint or more. There's of course a heavy mill scale on there that's really tough, tougher than most that I've come across. And then there's a primer, and then there's a paint. And this stuff is some tough stuff. I tried a flap disc on the grinder, on the 4.5-inch grinder, one of those flap sanding discs, and I was able to polish up the edges around here and stuff and smooth them down, and it kind of touched the paint a little bit, but not very much. So I tried to wire wheel on there, and that was kind of slowly getting the paint off, but it wasn't really working very good either. And then I got to looking, and I've got one of these kind of Scotch-Brite type thick pads here, and it's got some abrasive in it, and that is actually working pretty good to get this cleaned up. Well, I don't need to do the whole thing to bright metal. I just need to do where the welds are going to be, where this is going to butt up against the angle or the channel iron and be welded on. So I got one of them done pretty good. I got it down pretty good to bright metal on the inside where the welds are going to be, and a little bit on the outside. I've got 2 more to do. I'm just getting started at this one. Well, it froze pretty hard last night. Temperature got down to about, I don't know, 25 or so here. The ground firmed up a little bit, but it's not froze yet. Water has froze up, and been busting water out of pots and stuff for the dogs to drink out of. And a little bit chilly. Took me a couple hours to get things started this morning, to get fires going and stuff like that. Get things warmed up, but we got her going. Got to start on this. So I got these two done. Have a heck of a time with my welding helmet fogging up on me. And then my son come over to give me a hand. So I had him help me lay out my 3, 4, 5 triangles up there, or actually 6, 8, 10 triangles up there at the house, to locate my outer line in my corners where I'm going to put the pilings for the post, and get that done while it was daylight. And meanwhile, while I was doing that, my welding helmet sat down here and got all fogged up, so got it hanging in by the stove now. See if we can't get it unfogged. Get the last flange ready to go on, and I get it done before it gets dark. It'll be dark in 45 minutes or so, I suppose. My welding helmet thawed out, or defogged. I'd had everything already laid out on here, marked, so it's all ready to go. The welder's all hooked up and ready to go. So I've got to hold this piece on my line and tack it on there, because I don't have a clamp that'll hold that. That's not a 90-degree bend on those, so I've got to weld the big end on first, tack it on, get it welded on, and then use a clamp to pull the short flange end on there to get it tight. About as far as I can go at one time without glasses fogging up so bad I can't see. So, all right, I'll flip that one back over and run some more beads on there and get it all sitting nice and tight and tidy.